So today I watched my way through a bunch of Chaplin films that I hadn't seen before, because that's one of my sort of film struck blind spots. And so I'm going to go through them. I watched seven, if you can believe it. The first one I watched was Shoulder Arms. It's from 1918. It was Chaplin's first film that he directed, and a first feature film that he directed, and it's his shortest feature film. It was one of the highest grossing films of 1918, and basically it's a sort of spoof farce set in the trenches of the war, World War One. There's a really great flooding gag and a dream sequence, and that's the bulk of what you really need to know about Shoulder Arms. Um, it definitely has sort of a lot of Chaplin-esque moments, where his sweetness clashes with the brusqueness of the situations he's in. And it co-stars, like many of his early films, Edna Purviance. So I don't know if I'm saying her name right. And his brother, Sidney. Sidney was in lots of his films during this era. The next one I watched was 1919's Sunnyside. And this one I quite liked, mostly because the ending was really kind of messed up. Basically, Charlie's Tramp in this one works in a farm in the middle of the countryside, and he's in love with a girl, played by Edna, and he's trying to convince her to like be with him, but he's kind of a mess, and there's a lot of sight gags like him milking milk right into it from a cow into his coffee and holding a chicken over a frying pan to get a fried egg, things like that. But then when a city slicker shows up, you know that he's going to like lose the girl because that's how that works. It reminded me of there's this one Buster Keaton Fatty Arbuckle short that I'm forgetting the name of that has an extended sequence inside a um, shop, and there were bits of this one that reminded me of that one. But the reason I liked the ending was it's really kind of open ended and bittersweet and possibly tragic. So that's always good. The third one I watched is The Idle Class. It's from 1921, and basically Chaplin plays two characters. He plays the tramp and he plays a wealthy alcoholic. Edna is married to the wealthy alcoholic. The tramp shows up at the country club to play some golf and gets mistaken for the alcoholic. Now, this is 100% a comedy of mistaken identities and is a sort of spoof of several very popular late teens, early 20s rich alcoholic husband melodramas. There were a lot of these films at this time, and he's aping all of them, and he gets the tropes so wonderful. These resort melodramas. It's quite wonderful. There's actually quite a few resort melodramas, resort comedies at this time, and they're always quite fun. So Chaplin, actually, I think this was one of my favorite of his performances. Mostly not for his tramp performance, but for when he's playing the rich husband. He's hilariously snooty as the rich husband. So that was fun. The third one I watched is called Payday, and it's actually got some really iconic shots in it, as well as some really great shots of cats. A lot of cats. It was the last film Chaplin did as a two-reeler, meaning it's 22 minutes. Basically his last short film that he ever made. It's from 1922, and he is a day laborer who has just gotten paid, and his wife just really, really wants to like put the money towards some good things, and he just really, really wants to go out drinking, and surprise, he wins. And then shenanigans ensue because his decision is not the wise decision in terms of what they should be doing with their money. Shenanigans ensue. Edna's in it as well as Sidney. The next one I watched is called A Day's Pleasure, and it was actually shot in the midst of while he was trying to make The Kid, and it stars the kid himself, Jackie Coogan. It's from 1919, and it uh, is basically Edna and Chaplin are married, and Jackie Coogan is one of their kids, and they're just trying to have a fun day off, but cannot catch a break, and everything just gets messed up. It's one of those films. Um, it's quite fun, but not one of his most well, like choreographed films. Um, the next one I watched was quite interesting because it does not star Chaplin at all. He has a cameo, but I believe it's the first film he directed that he didn't star in. He also later wrote a score for it. He did that for several of his silent films where he went back and wrote scores to add to the prints. It's called A Woman of Paris, and it stars Edna as that woman of Paris. She um, is about to run off to Paris with her fiance, played by Carl Miller, when her stepfather locks her out of the house and says, "Nah, I don't, you're done." And her fiance's parents won't let her stay there either. So they decide it's time to run off together. So she's waiting for her fiance at the train station. He does not show up because his father dies, and she decides to go on her own. Cut to a year later, she's in Paris, and now she is the mistress of Adolf Menjou because all the ladies go wild for Adolf Menjou. Um, they do. He's very charming. She then meets her fiance again when she goes into the wrong apartment on accident. He is a struggling artist at this point and living with his mother after their father has died. And she attempts to get back with him, but obviously this is a drama, and so things do not go well. I won't tell you how it goes, but things do not end well. It is not a comedy. It is very much a tragedy, very much a romantic tragedy. Strange coming from Chaplin, but I think interesting to show that a filmmaker like Chaplin, that's so well known for one kind of film, could then make other kinds of films. And obviously, later in his career, when he got outside of silent cinema, he made all kinds of things like Limelight and The Great Dictator and stuff that really was outside of the slapstick most people know him for. So this is the beginning, I think, of seeing that. And then the last film I watched was 1928's The Circus, and this one does not star Edna. It has, I think it's Myrna Kennedy is the main um, female lead in this. And basically, he is the tramp, and he gets mistaken for a pickpocket, winds up joining a circus to escape from the cops, and ends up in all kinds of shenanigans, including tightrope walking with monkeys. Meanwhile, also falling in love with Myrna's character. And because he's a tramp, he very rarely gets the girl. If he doesn't already have the girl, he's probably not going to get the girl. And so it has sort of a bittersweet ending to it. But it's a very iconic ending in that I believe, and I could be making this up, but this is what I noticed. It is very reminiscent of the ending of Fellini's Eight and a Half, except obviously in Eight and a Half, it's a big surrealist moment with all these characters from the man's life all coming back and performing in the circus. But the way that both this ending and that ending were shot are so similar that I have to think a little bit of it was a nod to that from Fellini, who was a Chaplin fan. So these are the 7 Chaplin films I watched. I've now seen all the silents that are on Filmstruck from Chaplin. There's a couple of his talkie features that I still haven't seen as well because, like I said, Chaplin was a big blind spot. I'd seen a handful, but not as many as I should have at this point. I still gotta say that my favorite of this era is Arbuckle, but I'm slowly getting there with watching the Chaplin, and I still have to watch all the Harold Lloyd. I don't like Harold Lloyd. I've seen a couple. I don't like it. I'll get to it, I promise, and then I can check it off like I checked off Tarkovsky. I can have these opinions. I can have these outsider opinions if I've actually seen the films. It's fine. So, anyways, Chaplin all over the place. These are the best quality versions of these Chaplins here on Filmstruck, but you can also get them on most of these on Criterion discs, I think. So, anyways, Chaplin, have a good night.